And welcome to the Molten Fantasy Sports Podcast. I'm Supercoach Mattrix, here with my co-host, as always, Supercoach Brain. Braino, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm well, mate. I'm well. I don't know about you, but I have changed my team about 10 times since we spoke last on the last episode. So I'm in true preseason form at the moment.
Excellent. I've had a bit of a lack of sleep. The young fella kept me up last night till after midnight, and I have reshaped the whole lineup. So yeah, even some of the guys I thought were busts, I've changed my mind and slid them into my team, and we'll have a bit of a chat about that today.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Hey guys, so this is the first of our team previews. Rather than starting in alphabetical order, we thought that we would do it in the order that they finished last year, and we're going to be starting with the premiers. We're going to go premium with the Penrith Panthers. We are going to start at fullback with Dylan Edwards at $700K. Clive Churchill medal last year, Brano. I'm excited to see how he goes. A bit of a step down from those premium guys like Tedesco and Latrell. What do you reckon?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when we were talking about him off air, where, if you are looking to save a little bit of cash and you're looking to go down from those premium options like Tedesco, Latrell Mitchell, he sits at that price range where you could probably use that extra 150 to 200,000 and bolster your team in other positions. You could do a lot worse than going with Dylan Edwards. He's pretty reliable, and we saw last year 66 average. That's a pretty solid return for a full season in Dylan Edwards, and you know that the guy's just going to go for you all year. So pretty reliable. There's definitely worse options at fullback for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I was sort of looking at him a lot more before the recent rule changes because you know how New South Wales like to play every decent fullback in the state in their team. And Dylan Edwards, I was wondering whether he wouldn't get a run, and yeah, he could, bang you out 70 on those weeks that you wouldn't have a Teddy, Latrell, Turbo. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the rule changes. That's kind of flipped things on its head a little bit now, hasn't it? The best 13 during the bye rounds. We'll probably do a separate episode on that just to kind of have a chat about how that affects, our approach throughout the year. And we'll probably touch on that a little bit closer to the season. But, when you're talking about best 13 now, instead of having to try and get 17 or even 15 or 16 blokes together in your team in the one bye round, it kind of makes it a little bit less important, I guess, to be dodging Origin players. So yeah, it's probably dropped his stocks a little bit in the Supercoach world, unfortunately, but I wouldn't argue with you if you decided to go with Edwards as opposed to, say a Latrell to save up money.
Look, and how many weeks do you end up with 13 through that Origin period? You're taking out probably nearly the 40 best players in the comp. I don't think it changes it too much because you're going to want to get those points on the boards through the bye rounds to still try and step up. But I do think it helps to keep some casuals engaged. So,
yeah, absolutely. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. That I've been thinking about this, and the more I think about it, the less annoyed I am about it. I think it'll make people a little bit more engaged. I mean, how often do you see all the ghost teams drop in from probably Origin period onwards because they realise, my 3/4 of my team's out, haven't got enough trades, I'm in a pretty ordinary position, I'm coming 50,000ths or whatever, and they end up giving up and just don't change their team for the last half of the year. So it might keep people a little bit more involved throughout the whole season. So I don't see that as a bad thing.
Well, I was trying to think of it because I think you did this as well last season. We're not massive AFL fans. I watch a little bit. I try to get to maybe one Lions game a year. And I was thinking of this. If an AFL fan was doing NRL Supercoach because maybe their mates were into it, that's the point that I'd drop off. That's the point that they would drop off. And I think still getting your best 13 and still getting some good points on the board and maybe it popping up and you're finishing in the 40% instead of, the 80%, I think it'd keep everyone engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. We'll roll with it. The backline looks exactly the same for the Panthers this year. So
yeah,
we've got To'o and May on each wing, and then you've got Tungo and Stephen Crichton on either side. Thoughts on the back line there? Is there anybody that grabs you?
Look, yeah, I think that there's plenty of chatter to be said about the back line, but I think we've just got to chat about the fact that Taylor May is going to miss the first 2 rounds due to his suspension from something that seemed to happen like 2 years ago. But he, it's outside of my pay grade to delve into that too much. But we just need to be aware that he's not going to be there for the first two weeks of the season, and then into their buy into round 3. So if you were electing to have May, probably someone to look into round 4 more so than spending the very premium price of nearly $700K and throwing him in round 1.
Yeah, 100% agree. I'm not looking at May at all. At 675,000, that's just an outrageous price for obviously you take him at the start of the season at 170,000 or 200,000 or whatever he was that he started at. But at that kind of price, that's more expensive than Brian To'o. And if you ask me to choose between the two, I'm taking To'o every day of the week. In saying that,
yeah.
with To'o, obviously with May kind of being out that first 2 weeks, do you see To'o then go into the left wing? Is that how you envision that setup initially?
Yeah, I think I see To'o filling in for May over that other side, which I think is way better for To'o. That's where I'd like to see him play. And until I realised that, I wasn't actually looking at having Brian in my team. But now I'm looking at it, I think that at 640K, he's excellent value. And I think at least for the first couple of weeks, he's going to be... he's going to exceed that 60 average. I think we could see a really good price rise, and I hope that he proves that he could stay on that side. I hope that the coach sees that he should be over that side next to your boy Stephen, instead of being next to your boy Stephen Crichton, which I've heard you call him off air glue hands.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not the only person to call him that, to be fair, but he, to give him credit, he has developed a little bit of a passing game over the back end of last season. He started to see that little flick pass out the back to To'o on the right. So I don't hate it, but anybody playing outside Crichton, I'm not a huge fan of, which is why I'm going to probably go against you on To'o, and I'm going to say that it might be a bit of a bust this year if he's outside Crichton for the rest of the season. I just love him on the left wing. I love him on the left side. He's only had one full season, and that was obviously a couple of years ago before May took over that left wing position, and he had an average of 85. Every other season on the right wing, he's averaged around 55 to 60. So again, are we going to see that 85 average To'o on the right wing? I'm pretty certain that we won't. But again, yeah, To'o is such a good player that he can create his own opportunities, and he just eats up base stats for fun. So look, I'm more than happy to be wrong, and there might even be a chance at some point in this season that I'll grab him if his price drops probably around that 550 mark. But I'm going to fade To'o initially, I think.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go with him, but what I want to tell the listeners is don't see him get... You just threw the stats at me. Don't see him get 90 and 100 in the first 2 weeks, have the bye week, and get him into your team. That's what I'm scared about for more so the casual watcher, not understanding that he's a lot better outside on the left-hand side than he is going to be outside glue hands. So,
yeah, definitely. Mate,
did you want to
Tungo?
Yeah, that's where I was.
I want to talk about him because he's at 627,000 now. More than happy to give him a plug because I get a lot of tips from him. Rugby League Guru, he's very high on Tungo, and sees him having an even bigger year this year. And the reasoning behind it, which I kind of agree with in a way, is that without so when Kikau was obviously on the left edge, they used Kikau a lot. So they used Tungo as that sweeping underman where he'd run that decoy back in, and then obviously Kikau would sweep around the back and either get it out to May on the overlap or go himself. So that created a lot of opportunities, and he was basically a professional decoy last year. And I think he scored 11 tries, and he had 9 tries disallowed last year. So when you go from 11 to 20, that's an elite year, and that could be 150,000 in price, really. Now, does Tungo now become the guy now that Kiko's gone? So that's a question, I guess. Now that Kikau's not there, are they going to use Tungo more? Are they going to use him not as a decoy, but as the guy that gets the ball? Something to think about, I guess.
Yeah, it's certainly worth looking at. I'll be looking elsewhere for 600K. Tungo, May were the best cash cows I've nearly ever seen last season. Like, they were amazing. Coming into a Penrith outfit, doing what they did, and like you said, getting a 60 average. But for 600, like, you're talking about Brian To'o or Isaac Tungo. Where are you going to go? Well, obviously, you'd rather look at Tungo.
I still don't think so. If I'm not looking at To'o, I'm not looking at Tungo. I think there's better options out there at that kind of price in other teams that I'm sure we'll mention in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention Tungo's base is excellent for a centre. It's something that just needs to, like, you're going to get some consistency out of him. I don't think you're going to get Brian To'o. You could get 300 points in 4 weeks and get 280 in 3 of them and 20 in 1 of them. You're not going to get that with Tungo. So if you are looking for some consistency, he's someone that you could look at.
Yeah, completely agree.
Popping into the halves, Nathan Cleary. He has to be 70, 80% owned going into the season. I might check exactly
You'd think so.
It is, actually.
You would think so. I think Nathan Cleary is probably at a discount right now at 840,000. He averaged 80 last year, but he also missed a few games. Obviously had that suspension and obviously missed a few games through Origin. So I think you're probably getting him at about 60K discount as a minimum. And I'm more than happy to take that 60K to the bank and use it elsewhere. I can probably guarantee that he'll be pushing $1 million by the time we hit the Origin period. Based on the Penrith draw. So I'm more than happy to lock him in my team. He's in my team right now, and basically the easiest person to go and just put the armband on every single week, the captain's armband. You can just leave him there and you'll never really be disappointed with your season if you go that route.
You can't look past him. 840 is a premium, but I'm looking at him over someone like Nico. I can just see Cleary, like you said, pushing that $1 million. Nico, I could see him having as good of a season as he had, but I think Cleary's safer. I think Cleary is cheaper, and I think we can actually make some money out of him.
Yep, spot on. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yep. And looking at the number 6, at nearly 600K, he, I suppose he might not be too good at best man speeches, but he's pretty good at football, isn't he?
Yeah, he goes all right. He goes okay. I wonder how he's going to go with an adjustment to having a new left edge second rower in Luke Garner, who we'll speak about in a minute.
Yep.
He had a lot of success with Kikau there, and again, we bring up Kikau so much because he had such an impact in the way that this side was structured last year and the way that they played. They went down the left a lot because he was their best ball runner. He was their best hole runner, and it made sense. Because they had a lot of success down that side. So you just keep doing it. But this year, is it going to be different? I think it will be. I think it might affect Jerome Luai. I'm probably going to go out and say that I reckon he might even decrease in average this year, just off the back of that. And obviously, look, he's average 56. It's not amazing. There's definitely better options in the 6. And he also plays Origin. So, I mean, how many Origin players do you want to have in your team? It's definitely a consideration as well.
Yeah, definitely. I won't be looking at him either. I think you're paying that mid-premium price, and I'm looking actually to fade the 6th position a little bit, trying to save a bit more money to afford my guys like Cleary and Tedesco and blokes like that. Stepping into the forward pack, though, we've got Leota at 480K, coming off a 45 average, and we've got James Fisher-Harris. Is there anyone there that you'll be looking at?
No. I feel like the second row, front row's dirt this year, to be honest. It's one of those positions where you probably would be more than happy to just go cheap there. There's some good mid-range options that I'm sure that we'll talk about. We've mentioned a few on the podcast last episode, so I'll be passing on the 2 front rowers from the Panthers, but there is a second rower that I may be able to squeeze into my team, and we'll talk about him in a second. What about yourself?
Yeah. I won't be looking for the front row for the Panthers. I won't be looking at the bench from the Panthers. I'll be looking at doing very little from the Panthers in the forward pack. I will be looking at. I'm going to have half a look at Mitch Kenny. I just think he's a juicy, cheap price. 310k. I'm interested to see the minute splits between Kenny and Sonny Luke. I think Mitch Kenny is probably your meat and potatoes footballer. I think he's going to come out. He's going to do the job. I think he's going to pass it around, but you're not going to get the points that you used to get from an Api Coruscant, who's departed and left to the West Tigers this year. I think if he could push 65, 70 minutes, he could be a guy to watch. But Sonny Luke's exciting. He's going to come off the bench. He's going to provide that spark. And I think they're going to be looking to give him 25 minutes, kind of making them both irrelevant for Supercoach. Would you agree with that, Brano?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think what you're likely to see initially is going to be a pretty even 40-40 split between Mitch Kenny and Sonny Luke.
Okay.
I'd love to be able to see if Mitch Kenny can break 60 minutes. I mean, he could be a guy that gets about 45 to 50, and is that enough at that price? Might be to make you 100 grand. But do you really want to make 100 grand, or do you want to have a slow burn, or are there better options at hooker? I can probably say now there are better options at hooker.
I think if they're doing a 40-40 split, Sonny Luke's better value. I actually expect Kenny to play 60, and I still don't think he's that good a value. So,
yeah. So I mean, you've mentioned Sonny Luke, and he's actually kind of my cheapie from this team. It was really hard to find any sort of cash value because they did so well last year. But I feel like Sonny Luke, so some stats for you. He actually had the third most try assists in the New South Wales Cup last year. Loves running the ball, had the second most line break assists, and had the most receipts across the whole competition, meaning he's touching the ball the most out of any other player in the competition. So he loves getting involved. He loves running from dummy half. He's quite creative. I feel like that they might obviously use Luke off the bench, which makes a lot of sense, but use him as that injection of energy that they probably will need through the middle when the forwards are tired, fatigued at about that 30-minute mark. They might be able to get Luke onto the field there. So he's going to be my cheapie from the Panthers.
Excellent. Stepping into the second row, mate, I know there's someone you want to chat about. Take the floor.
Yes, Luke Garner. Now, I mean, look, he's kind of been in and out of my team. Obviously with news coming across, we find out things every day about people's roles and who's preferred in different positions across different clubs. And he's been in and out. I'm not 100% sure on him, but I'm classing him as a smoky, only because I think at 435,000 and based on a 41 average, he's coming from the Tigers, right? So when you come from the Tigers, who didn't do well last year, let's face it, come last. He didn't get good ball. He didn't get good opportunity over there, and he's coming to the best left edge in the competition. You can guarantee there's going to be an uptick in opportunity there. He's a really good line runner, but the question is he going to be used as a decoy? He's obviously not going to step in, and we're not expecting him to be Viliami Kikau. So is Luai going to be using him as a bit of a decoy to get more ball to Tungo? I could foresee that happening, and we could end up in a trap, but let's say it comes off and he averages you 55, 60, which is very, very possible to do. Loves a try. He could absolutely be a really good person to start with initially to make you 150 grand.
I agree, and I think he's someone to look at. I sort of put in, he's not Brian To'o, but I sort of put him the opposite to that. So if you see in the first 2 weeks that Garner's scoring well, he's a bloke that you want in the third week. Whereas To'o, the first 2 weeks, if you see him score really well, you still need to wait and see if you don't own him at the start. So if he's on,
good point.
After that bye round, I'm going to want him in. If he gets 55, 60 the first 2 weeks, I'll be looking in. But to start the season at his price, it's an awkward price. Like, do you go 200K, use that 200 to step up to a premium guy? I don't really want 415K sitting on my bench when there's the premium guys that I want the points, and there's the 200K guys that I want to make some money out of so that I can turn one of those guys into another 600K guy. It's an awkward price for me.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I think one thing we also agree on is the lock, the number 13 as AEO. Priced at pretty much 700,000. And he's got a 66 average coming off last year. Mr. Reliable, the bloke that that you can plug in and he'll get you 60, he'll get you 50 in base. does the job, makes a ton of tackles, plays a lot of minutes. But does he have the ceiling or the upside to some other options across the board? I'd probably argue that he doesn't. He's not that bloke that's going to go and get you a ton or 120, but he'll get you a safe 60 to 70 every single week. What are your thoughts on Yo?
I think it depends how you want to play the game, and I think you've got to make your decision on certain positions before the year. Like, if you want the opportunity for someone to come out and score 150, you're not looking at Yo. But a lot of those guys that can throw 150 out, like, people don't average 150 in Supercoach. A lot of those guys that come out and get the 150 can get you 30 or 40 some weeks. You're never going to get that from Yo. You're going to get, between 60 and 70. He's going to get that. He's going to cover that. He's not going to make you any money. He's not going to lose you any money. He's going to be exactly as advertised. And if you're looking for that, you could look at Yo. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, we'll quickly skip through the bench, I reckon, because there's not really anybody worth talking about Supercoach-wise here. I think looking at the bench starting kind of four, you're looking at Sonny Luke, like we mentioned. Scott Sorensen and Spencer Leniu are there, and I'm not looking at either of those guys. And probably whoever jags that last spot, maybe Jamin Salmon. It's hard to see any of them having enough opportunity in that team that's clearly stacked and going for 3 premierships in a row. I don't think they're going to be tinkering with too many things.
No, and if one of these guys that we're talking about was, in the low 200s, or like Sonny Luke's the only bloke that's there, I would be looking at it. I would be looking at Scott Sorensen if he was 200K. I would be looking at Spencer Leniu if he was 100K cheaper. Same with Peachy. Same with the weak-gutted dog. I think these guys are too good. I think they're not going to get the minutes, and they're good. They're experienced. Yeah, I'm not looking to get any of these guys in my team unless they drop to 200K and get some opportunity over Origin. Even then, I'm probably not looking at them.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, mate. I suppose the last thing to mention about the Panthers is the buys. So the Panthers have a buy in round 3. And then they've got the 2 of the 3 major buy rounds, 13 and 19. They've also got a buy, so it's worth thinking about there. Obviously, with the guys playing Origin, it actually doesn't affect them too much, considering their team already has the buy on 13 and 19. But there is a consideration that they do get the rest in round 12 or 14, or either side of that, in the lead up to those rounds. So worth considering. But does the round 3 buy for these guys deter you at all?
No, it doesn't. I'm looking to spend cash, and I'm looking to get points on the board out of the Penrith Panthers, and I think you're going to get that with Cleary. I think you're going to get that with To'o. It's going to scare me from having 4 Panthers in the team, but it's not going to scare me from spending a lot of cash in 2 positions there.
Yeah, fair shout, mate. I think that wraps us up. The Panthers, unless you had one last thing to say.
Look, I've got the Panthers finishing first for the year. I don't see them winning the comp. But yeah, I think if you're struggling during the season and you find yourself with 100 or 200K short of hitting a home run, downgrading Teddy or Latrell down to Dylan Edwards to upgrade at another position, I don't think you're gonna lose a lot of cash. And I think where money counts and where we're having a look now, the difference between having a 400K guy to a 550K guy could be really important. And I just think it's something that people need to look at the start of the year. Everybody's going to see Teddy and Latrell locked in, but if you can get a lot more points at another position and it covers that, I think Dylan Edwards is probably the 3rd best guy to look at. So it's just something I just want to leave everyone to chat about.
Yeah, for sure. I have the Panthers. I'm going to say they finished 2nd this year. I'm very high on another team that we'll talk about soon enough. I think they're going to take it out this year. So Panthers 2nd for me, 1st for you.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I do think that wraps it up. Where can we find you on socials, Brandon?
Mate, I'm pretty much everywhere, but I'm most active on Twitter. So if you search Brain_FS or Supercoach Brain on Twitter, you'll find me. How about yourself, mate?
At SC_Mattrix on Twitter. That's where you'll find me.
Perfect.
All
And,
right.
if you like what you've heard today and want to subscribe or support the channel, head to Molten Fantasy Sports on YouTube and click that subscribe button. And we'd really appreciate the support. And hopefully we can bring you some more value and we'll kick on with the rest of the teams in the coming days.
All right. Thanks, mate.